white horse. Then I saw when the Lamb broke into the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying with a voice of thunder, "Come!" I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow and a crown, and was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. The first horseman is pestilence, and is associated with infectious disease and plagues. The origin of interpretation is unclear. Some translations of the Bible mention plague, or some mean pestilence. In connection with the writers in the passage following the introduction of the 4th rider, they were given power over the 4th of the earth to kill by a sword, famine, plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. However, it is a matter of a debate as to whether the passage refers to the 4th rider only, or to the 4th rider as a whole. A common translation into English: the rider of the white horse carries a bow and wears a victor's crown. In Revelation 6, only 1 crown was given, not taken. A 3rd person giving authority to the rider to accomplish his work. Now that we got into pestilence and plague, let's get into the red horse, something we all seem to look at, that we all seem to know all too well: war. When he broke the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature saying, "Come." And another, a red horse, went out, and to him who sat on it, it was granted to take peace from earth, and that all men would slay one another, and a great sword was given to him. The rider of the 2nd horse is often meant to resemble war. He's often pictured to have his sword above him, as though ready for battle or mass slaughter. His horse's color is red, and in some translations, the color is meant to be fiery red. The color red, as well as the possession of a great sword, suggests that blood is about to be spilled. The sword that is held upward by the 2nd horseman may represent war or a declaration of war. Let's get into the appearance of war. The 2nd horseman may represent civil war, as opposed to the war of conquest that the 1st horseman is sometimes said to bring. Other interpretations have made it to suggest that it might also include the persecution of Christians, pestilence, war. Next is famine, and the black horse he rides on. When he broke the 3rd seal, I heard the living creature saying, "Come." I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hands, and I said something like a voice in the center of the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, but do not damage the oil and wine." The 3rd rider is to be famine, and is to be riding a black horse, as he is to be holding a pair of scales. Represent of weighing bread during a famine. Others interpret it as the Lord of the lawgiver, holding the scales of justice. In the passage, it is read, that the indicated price of grain is about 10 times normal, with an entire state wage, a denarius, buying enough wheat just for one person would struggle to feed their families. In this gospel, a denarius is mentioned as a monetary unit. For example, the denarius was one day's pay for a soldier and one day's pay of a seasonal worker in the harvesting of grapes. Matthew 20, verse 2 says this: "Thus it is probably a fact that with the approach of the apocalypse, the most necessary food will rise in price greatly, and the wages earned per day will only be enough for the minimum subsistence for the same day and nothing more." Of the four horsemen, the black horse and the rider is the only one to be accompanied by a vocalization. John hears a voice, unidentified but coming from among the four living beasts that speak about the prices of wheat and barley, also saying, "And see, thou hurt not the oil and the wine." This suggests that the black horse is to drive up the price of grain, but not oil and wine supplies. One explanation for this is that grain crops would have been more naturally susceptible to famine or plague of locusts than oil trees and grapevines, which root more deeply. The statement might also just suggest a continuing abundance of luxuries for the wealthy. While staples such as bread are scarce but not totally depleted, such scarcity may result from injustice and the deliberate production of luxury crops for the wealthy over grain, as would have happened during the time of the Revelation was written. It could also mean the preservation of the Christian faith, who use oil and wine in their sacraments. Next, we're getting into the pale horse, Death himself. When the Lamb broke the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and he who sat on it had the name of Death, and Hades was following with him. Authority was given to them over a fourth of the earth to kill with sword and with famine and with pestilence and by the wild beasts of the earth. It is said that the term Hades does not refer to as the Greek god of the underworld, but perhaps the souls of the dead. And it is said that at the very end of existence, it is Death himself who will reap God and ultimately kill him. The fourth and final horseman is known as Death. Of all the riders, he is the only one to whom the text itself explicitly gives a name. Unlike the other three, he is not descriptively as carrying a weapon or other objects. Instead, he is followed by Hades, the resting place of the dead. However, there are common misconceptions that he is carrying a scythe, as what a reaper would carry. Color of Death's horse is written as coloris in the original coin Greek, which can either mean green or greenish yellow or pale. The color is often translated to be meaning that of pale, though ashen, pale green, and yellowish green, and other possible interpretations. Based on the used word in ancient Greek medical literature, Several scholars suggest that the color reflects the sickly pallor of a corpse. In some modern artistic depictions, the horse is distinctly green. The first beginning, they were given power of a fourth of the earth, taken as referring to death in Hades, seeing as some commenters may refer to this as referring to all four horsemen. Its commission was to kill all upon the earth as one of the four judgments of God, with sword, famine, pestilence, and wild beasts. As for the wild beasts of the earth, according to Bishop Edward Elliot, it is a well-known law of nature that they quickly occupy the scenes of waste and population, where the reign of man falls and the reign of beasts begin,